Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped treasure together for the last days. Behold, the hire of the laborers who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth. And the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth. Ye have lived in pleasure on the earth, and been wanton. Ye have nourished your hearts as in a day of slaughter. Ye have condemned and killed the just, and he doth not resist you. Be patient, therefore, brethren, unto the coming of the Lord. Behold, the husbandman waiteth for the precious fruit of the earth, and hath long patience for it, until he receive the early and latter rain. Be ye also patient, establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord draweth nigh. Grudge not one against another, brethren, lest ye be condemned. Behold, the judge standeth before the door. Take, my brethren, the prophets, who have spoken in the name of the Lord, for an example of suffering, affliction, and of patience. Behold, we count them happy which endure. Ye have heard of the patience of Job, and have seen the end of the Lord, that the Lord is very pitiful and of tender mercy. But above all things, my brethren, swear not, neither by heaven, neither by the earth, neither by any other oath. But let your yea be yea, and your nay, nay, lest ye fall into condemnation. Is any among you afflicted? Let him pray. Is any merry? Let him sing psalms. Is any sick among you? Let him call for the elders of the church, and let them pray over him, anointing him with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer of faith shall save the sick, and the Lord shall raise him up. And if he have committed sins, they shall be forgiven him. Confess your faults one to another, and pray one for another, that ye may be healed. The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Elijah was a man subject to like passions as we are, and he prayed earnestly that it might not rain, and it rained not on the earth by the space of 3 years and 6 months. And he prayed again, and the heaven gave rain, and the earth brought forth her fruit. Brethren, if any of you do err from the truth, and one convert him, let him know that he which converteth the sinner from the error of his way shall save a soul from death, and shall hide a multitude of sins.
Greetings and welcome everybody to the Bret Norman Broadcasting Network on this beautiful Saturday, May 25th, 2019. And I'm very thankful we are all three gathered here today on Skype via a connection over the Atlantic Ocean, all the way from Minnesota, United States, all the way to Belgium, and then all the way to Germany. And I believe, Michael, you're in the, close to Netherlands in Germany, was it?
Yeah, hi Brett. Thanks for inviting me. Yes, it's always the same. I'm not moving.
Good.
Just quite a few miles beneath the border, and just on the west of western border of the so-called Federal Republic of Germany. And so it's just in the middle of Europe, to say so.
Right.
And just always, really always the same weather as in Belgium, except for the point that Jörg is sending all the rain and thunderstorm in my direction, usually. so I hand it over to the one guy who's laughing now.
I'm the god of thunder, and I bring you.
Yeah.
Oh, no, but that is, I receive all my weather most of the time from the west, that is England and the Channel and the North Atlantic, and we have over here in this part of Europe most of the time wind from the western, so all this bad weather first comes to me, and then I'm going to send it over to Michael because I don't want to deal with it. And the good weather I keep. This morning when we went on a walk, my mother, our dog, and me, we caught some rain in between. But still, we took the long way and fed the donkeys with the carrots that we carry for these occasions. 2 kilograms of carrots we feed to a few donkeys out there on a little farm. When we passed there, we would never pass without any carrots in our bag because, the donkeys always come up and greet us, and they want the carrots because they know we have them. So when we don't have carrots, we just don't pass there. But that was during rain, and now this afternoon it is more or less cloudy, then sun again, cloudy, then sun again, but the sun is more shining than this morning. Anyway, this is so far the weather status of Western Europe, means Germany and Belgium, because I'm just living 150 kilometers apart from Michael, which is not so far away, I think, 150 kilometers. This is about, 100 miles, 90 miles that we are separated.
Yeah.
But that's only the geographical distance, and the geographical distance doesn't mean anything because the geographical distance I have with Brother Bret is a few thousand miles, and I don't care for that because we are connected via the Holy Spirit, and that's why we are connected via Skype to do another reading of the wonderful book, The Divine Program of the World's History by Albert Close today. This is about the 36th reading. I don't care if it is really the 36th or whatever. You will see it in the playlist when this one appears. I think it's a 36, but never mind. We are on page 103 of the book, or page 95 in the PDF, the little part that I made a little bit highlight in yellow here. The Roman Catholic truth versus the truth, because the Roman Catholic truth just claims to be the truth, but is so far from the truth as is the earth from the sun, at least in their teaching of the solar system we so-called live in. Okay? How the Jesuits falsify history today. And remember, the book is written in during the running of the First World War, or the Great War, published somewhere between 1914 and 1916, so he can only speak of time that is now already where we speak of in 2019, more than 100 years ago already. And he says how the Jesuits falsify history today in the beginning of the 20th century. Now add to that what we are reading, 300% more, and then you get close to where we are today, to the falsifying of history today in 2019. The author says to demonstrate afresh how the Jesuits today try to falsify history, after we just read on the falsifying of the Spanish Armada and the Babington plot, you remember? To demonstrate afresh how the Jesuits today try to falsify history concerning the Armada, here is their comment on the author's book, The Defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1913 AD. The following review was published in the Roman Catholic Book Notes, October 1913. This little paper is a sort of puff for Roman Catholic quote-unquote Truth Society publications. It is edited by an ex-member of the Church of England who claims to have found the truth in the Church of Rome. Yeah. That is like finding a grain of salt in a pot full of sugar. Mm-hmm. Jesuit Historical Research, a review. Mr. Close's defeat of the Spanish Armada, published by the Protestant Truth Society, has something of the interest of a fossil. It represents what passed for history 50 years ago. Exploded fictions and baseless romances of the Armada period are gravely reproduced as historic facts in utter ignorance of the results of modern research. From the Catholic Book Notes, October 1913. Now let it be noted that this Jesuit review does not mention one single fact brought to light. It simply makes a false statement as if it were truth, and then leaves the lie to do its own work. And this is exactly how they work today, isn't it, brothers?
Oh, boy.
They never come with facts to prove you wrong. They just say that you are inventing fables. And that's all they do. Yeah, Bret,
Jörg,
please.
this really reminds me of something you had told me about this new 31st General of the Society of Jesus, Sosa, said
Arturo Sosa.
truth is relative,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I think that's what he said, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's relative when you're the devil's advocate, sure.
Yeah. For the Jesuits, the truth is relative. For a Bible-believing Christian, the truth is absolute.
Very good.
Michael, some comments?
Yeah, that's with the relatively truth, or the relative truth is, I think it's originated from in the philosophy.
Sure. That
And
sounds right.
And so there are also some who say that there is not only black and white, which means good and evil, but there are so many shades of gray, at least 50, I think. But to me, any part of gray is just the meaning that the origin, the pure truth, has been spoiled. And that's why it is gray. So you have the mixing of the holy with the profane. And so there we have the 50 shades of gray, because it isn't white anymore. So it's just the same old thing. Either it's true or it's false, but it cannot be mostly true or mostly false, because if it is not the absolute truth, it's a relative truth, but it's a relative truth isn't the absolute truth, and therefore isn't the truth at all. It's just another playing of words. It's just Jesuitical
sophistry.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Just a play of words.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Very well. Let's continue in the wonderful book. Here's another Jesuit review of a book on the subject written according to Jesuit ideas of quote-unquote rewritten history. You know what they said in their publication they did together with the Lutherans?
Right.
From conflict to communion.
Mm-hmm.
Our goal is not to tell a different history, but to tell history differently. Huh? Always bear that in mind when you read along with us in this part of the book. The idea of the Jesuits very often is not to tell a different history, but to tell it differently. Give you one example: the sinking of the Titanic. Nobody denies the sinking of the Titanic, that the Titanic has sunk. But many people deny that it was done deliberately, and many people deny the reasons what it was done for. So, nobody is denying that the Titanic sunk, but the circumstances are told in different ways. And those different ways are the Jesuit ways. That's what we're going to learn in this next little paragraph here. Mr. Hale's book on the Great Armada of 1588 is one more contribution to that rewriting of history in the light of contemporary documents, which has already done so much to rectify long accepted errors and explode traditional legends. It is to be hoped that the book will have a wide circulation, for the episode in our national history with which it deals is known to most people by accounts largely colored with the old anti-Catholic tradition. Fraud's strange narrative and Kingsley's Romans are still accepted by many as true pictures of the time. Here, however, we have the sober reality. The story is carefully built up from the English and Spanish state papers, but told in a vivid, picturesque style that holds the reader's attention throughout. The causes of the Cato are first analyzed, and it is shown that the war with Spain was only secondarily a religious quarrel. It was primarily a conflict arising from the clash of colonial and commercial interests. Alcazar, the Jesuit, invents preterism. So we go into another subject now. Yeah. The Jesuits know all about the Spanish state documents published by Freud and by the Oratory Fathers, yet they write stuff like the above for consumption by unsuspecting Roman Catholics. This is a fair example of quote-unquote Catholic truth. Yeah, beware. Catholic truth is not the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Yeah. And therefore, of course, you can also look in Freud's History of England to verify the quote we've just read.
Comment.
Yeah, please, Michael.
It just clicked in my mind because you see that the relative truth, it means, you see, there are relatives. So it depends on maybe the one who is telling this version of the truth, because it is related to someone or something. And so it is not the absolute truth, because it just depends on the one who is telling this kind of the story. And it just came in an instant to me that it is depending on the storyteller, actually. Because if he is believing the version he is telling, it's for him it's the truth. But if he doesn't have his facts straight, then it's just the vision of the truth, but not the absolute truth. So it's very much depending on the one who is telling the story. And if this one who is telling the story is indoctrinated since his birth, then there is no chance to get to the absolute truth in the usual way, by learning it in a school or in universities or wherever, because he will never try to search the absolute, because he was told that there is that every aspect of his being is quite natural and is quite logic, because humans are working this way, and he is raised in the Roman Catholic system. So why should he suggest or he get suspicious that there is something wrong? And I think the doubt in his mind can only come from the God above, you see, but not from our society, because our society is just used to this kind of stuff on this relative truth. And this relative truth has been told by our teachers, by our universities, and so nobody is suspicious about, because it has to be the truth, because most of the people are into that, you see. I'm not making a big thing up now, but it just came into my mind that relative truth has maybe the same origin, the same root as a relative, which means someone who's close to you. And you believe it. You first believe also your parents, of course. They're out there. Of course, that's a boogeyman, and which is actually. But you believe in Santa Claus and this kind of crap. Yeah.
Because that story is told to you by a relative. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's the relative truth.
Because it relies on relatives.
I think the underlying question, then again, if you don't mind, is who specifically wants absolute truth? Because to some minds, absolute truth is not worthy of even talking about.
Well, if Michael is right with the thing that was just given to him, why don't we understand it biblically here? Jesus Christ said, "You are of your fathers, and your father is the father of lies." Yeah, when he speaks to the Jews. So in this case, the Roman Catholic Church is the continuation of the Talmudic Jews in the time of Jesus. So they are all relatives, and their truth is relative to the father of lies.
Mm-hmm.
How about that connection?
That's good. That's good. But say, for instance, you bring up the term absolute truth, and you get cut down by saying, well, there are no absolute truths. And boy, I have a trouble with people like that, you know?
Sure, you have trouble with casuists and with sophists and with Jesuits and all the likes, and that's normal
and the
as a
main
part of being a
problem, though,
Christian.
Jörg, is that a lot of these Christians don't even know what a sophist is, or a casuist, or any of this. So they're deceived so easily by these arguments, these temporal arguments. And the so-called truth about the Spanish Armada that we just read too, for that matter, commercial interests. Wow. I mean, how they are able to take the biblical truth and thwart it through the arguments of temporal affairs. It works every time. Politics. Yeah, it's a bottomless pit. Go ahead.
May I step in?
Sure.
Yeah, you see, in my opinion, as we are starting with Alcazar and the preterism now, you see that everybody gets his truth, his relative truth. On the one hand, you get the preterism and the futurism. And so you get also the same thing ahead, which is divide and conquer. So you split the man into parties, and then you can fight each other, and they will never know the truth, because the truth is actually the historicism.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a double-minded truth, Michael.
Yeah, but but same again. It's relative. It's not
no
the absolute
relative truth is a double-minded truth, and man cannot serve two masters.
Yeah.
That's the biblical truth and the absolute truth, and they're deathly afraid of it. People in my family are, I've confronted.
Isn't it quite actually revealing that the preterism and futurism started after the Protestant Bibles has been published? So they had to came up to disguise the real meaning of the revelation of John.
Michael, that's an interesting point you bring up, and Jörg Glismann and I and Tom Fress have discussed this in Bible study too, is the fact that these arguments, futurism and preterism, were existent long before the Protestant Reformation, during the time of probably the rise of papal Rome, when it was in its first, even before that, maybe. I don't know, but it's ancient. And what the Roman Catholic Church did was simply bring those teachings back to the table. Mm-hmm. They were revived. But, you have to read a lot of these history books like Tom has done, and it's not an easy thing to actually prove.
Yeah,
you have to really be specific.
Yeah,
but I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, okay, but you see, I got you, and I also believe in that these old so-called fairy tales were handed over centuries ago, thousands of years ago. Of course, they had to lie from the beginning, or
right
Lucifer,
from the first century church. That's right.
Satan has to lie from since the beginning, of course.
Simon Magus, as we've went through so many times.
Yeah, but if you insist, then it goes much earlier, because in the Garden of Evil, the Garden of Eden,
that's
also
right.
good. In the Garden of Evil, Eden. It's just the evil started when Satan used the snake, to distract and to seduce Eve, and so it's the same thing around. It started with a lie, and so after it was popular to have a book, to have a Bible at home, they had to start printing Catholic forgeries and Catholic preterism and futurism, so that the people would have no clue in which one to believe. You see, there are so many versions of it, and every new version you got, then people have to restart again and rethink again. And so I think that just the multiplication of the forged, faked versions of anything which has to of the revelation is just out there, because you got so many versions of it. And last night I even watched another version, and I said, it gets so frustrated, because in the beginning I thought, well, it could be a cool video and a good video, but then I shook my head constantly.
Yeah,
and
right.
you see, that's the thing, that
right.
the people are simply cannot see the trees. Cannot see the forest, because there are so many trees, and they don't know which tree the correct one is, and they will give up, because it demands a lot of time, and I know how much time I am, and especially you are doing these lectures and reading and all the stuff. And I think that just so many versions, and I would not be surprised if there will be published another version of it, so that you got a version and a new version. And if we are seeing the downfall on the Roman Catholic Church in the near future to be sacrificed for the one-world religion, there will be a new Bible and new Bible versions and new Bible versions, and they will reveal some errors and more errors and more errors, and nobody can really prove, because it's all in the secret bibliothèque of the Vatican. You see, there's so many things. I start now talking because I like to go on with the book, but it's just the multiplication of forgeries, I think, is just to distract people, and that people give up in an instant and say, oh, well, there are so many versions out of it, I cannot read everything. That's
True.
Just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Good. I'd like to use another simple example to make it clear to our listeners what we are talking about here. I want to use the Hegelian dialectic in a positive way for once. You have the thesis, you have the antithesis, and when you combine these two, you get the synthesis. Now think of preterism as the thesis, the Antichrist is in the past. Think of the antithesis of futurism, the Antichrist is in the future, and where does your truth lie? In the middle, historicism. Because the Roman Catholic Church has one big problem. It is a Jesuit who teaches preterism, Alcazar, who we're going to learn about in a moment. It is another Jesuit, or two Jesuits, Ribera with his work and Bellarmine with his teaching, who teach futurism, that the Antichrist is in the future, but the truth is in the middle. The Antichrist has always been here, since the great falling away that Paul announced in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. There must come a falling away first, and the man of sin, the son of perdition, must be revealed. And that is historicism. So normally I would not like to quote Hegel's dialectic, but you have to understand this very easy thing when you put one teaching, futurism or preterism, and another teaching, and you put them against each other, the result is a third one, and that is not a new one, that is historicism, that's the one that lies in the middle. You have preterism on the right, you have futurism on the left, and eventually you are left with what's in the middle, historicism, and that's the historicist view, and that is the real view. And when you want to establish an absolute truth, that is very easy, because the Bible says that every truth must be established by 2 or 3 witnesses. And that's how you can defy anybody who wants to discuss you about there is no absolute truth. There is an absolute truth when it is established by 2 or 3 witnesses, and these witnesses stand on the only truth that is acceptable in the world where we can discuss with anyway, and that is the Bible, that is the Word of God. Right? When 2 or 3 witnesses based on the rock, the foundation, that is Jesus Christ and His Word, confess the truth, 2 or 3 independent witnesses of each other, that truth that is established there is the absolute truth. So there is an absolute truth and there's no discussion about it. And even though Hegelian dialectic will get you out of that catch-22 situation.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's the main reason I answered to a Hindu friend of mine where he said, well, I have heard that Jesus didn't exist. And I said, well, you see, there are 4 main gospels telling otherwise, because there are 4 witnesses and many, 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 many more. It's just not one book from the Hindus.
Right.
As the Hindus claims their teachings and so on, but or just one guy who was claiming something like what can you name, Jehovah's Witness or so? It's just one person, or Ellen G. White for the Seventh-day Adventists. No. There are at least 4 eyewitnesses and many, many more which have pinned down the events. And let me add to your Hegelian dialectic, please, Jörg, that for me it's just so obvious to have several versions of the preterism and futurism. It's just from in my understanding, it's just to spread doubt, because the first action of Satan in the Garden of Eden was asking Eve, and he said unto the woman, yea, hath God said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden?
He is the God of confusion, Michael.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep, the father of lies.
Good. Are we going to continue in the book?
Please.
Okay. 1598 AD, the Edict of Nantes, by which Henry IV gives religious liberty to the Huguenots. After the St. Bartholomew massacre that we spoke about abundantly in 1572, the successor of the French king, Henry IV, gives religious liberty to the Protestants in France at that time. 1603, Alcazar, a Spanish Jesuit, propounds the preterist interpretation of the Apocalypse. This theory restricts nearly the whole of the Apocalypse to the overthrow of the Jews and of the old, meaning pagan, Roman Empire. This is a very important little part that we are going to read here, because the problem is, first there came up Ribera and then Bellarmine with the futurist teaching at the end of the 16th century in 1591. Now 1603, 1604, Alcazar comes with another theory of the preterist interpretation of the Apocalypse or the Book of Revelation. Everything has already happened. Instead of the other teaching, everything will happen in the future. Now the problem for the Roman Catholic Church is that both theories, and I call them theories because they are not proven, both theories are put out there by Jesuits and by people who claim to teach Bible doctrine, right? Because they rely on their interpretation of the Bible. And since you know that what someone in the Roman Catholic Church of quite a standing teaches, for the Roman Catholic Church has to be taken seriously. Like, for example, when the Pope says so ex cathedra, it is that seriously that it is even infallible when he speaks. He cannot say anything wrong. Now, these two teachings are mutually exclusive. That's the problem. If preterism is true, futurism has to be, and there is no other choice, it has to be wrong. On the other hand, if futurism is right, then preterism is wrong. Now, how can you have two people from the same religious order, the Jesuit order in the Roman Catholic Church, the one proposing everything has been finished in the past, and the other one proposing everything will be finished in the future? And you, as Roman Catholic Church, put both teachings out there. What signal are you giving to the people? That you are confusing everybody. That you don't know what you're talking about. because with futurism you deny preterism, and with preterism you deny futurism. So what is your word worth? Nothing. Not even the dirt under your fingernail it's worth. If people only would get that by this oxymoron that not preterism and futurism can be true, but either one of them can be true, but if both are taught from the same institution and one excludes the other, then probably that institution maybe is wrong. How about that conclusion? And if people came to that conclusion, the world would have a much more nicer place to live in today. Please, Michael, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I wanted to finish my thought there.
Yeah, okay, no big deal. It's just that it just turns out that they only can offer relative truth. It relates onto someone who's telling the story, and it relates onto someone who's believing the story, actually. So everybody got his distraction, but nobody gets the absolute truth. And that's what the Bible is telling is the absolute truth, isn't it?
That's where the circle closes of your former argument with the absolute truth and the relative truth. Absolutely, yeah, that's correct. That's where the snake bites its tail, huh?
Ouroboros, yeah.
Ouroboros.
Yeah, that's right.
So, Alcazar, a Spanish Jesuit, propounds the preterist interpretation of the apocalypse. This theory restricts nearly the whole of the apocalypse to the overthrow of the Jews and of the old pagan Roman Empire. Eichhorn, the German, revived this interpretation in 1791 AD, and it afterwards became the favorite interpretation of our Oxford, Cambridge, Scottish, and American theological professors. In 1604, Jesuits expelled from England by James I because of their political intrigues. We are speaking about the great Gunpowder plot from AD 1605. After the death of Queen Elizabeth in 1603, England and Scotland united as the Kingdom of Great Britain, with James I as king. It was James I of England and James VI of Scotland. He was the son of Mary Stuart. Pope Clement VIII, on learning of Elizabeth's illness early in 1603, sent to Father Garnet, provincial of the Jesuits in England, 2 bulls, one to the Roman Catholic clergy and the other to the English Roman Catholic nobility and laity. These bulls enjoined that as soon as Elizabeth should depart this life, they were to permit none to ascend her throne unless he swore to do his utmost to uphold and advance the Roman Catholic faith. On James I ascending the throne and declaring himself a Protestant, the Jesuits set to work and hatched the Gunpowder plot. The details of this great plot are as follows, and we spoke abundantly of this in the book reading Code Word Babylon. So if you want to really go dig into the history of the Gunpowder plot, I can only advise you to go to the playlist on Bret's on my channel of Code Word Babylon, and there you will find wonderful videos on the Gunpowder plot. I think we did 3 or 4 readings of that because it took
yes.
2 chapters in the book, and especially when we go into the trial of Henry Garnet, whom we are talking here already about.
That's right. And I don't think I've made those videos yet. They're coming up. I'm pretty sure.
I thought they were already in the beginning of the
well, wait. Yeah. They were in the beginning. I'm sorry. You're correct. Absolutely.
Okay. I thought they were already published, yeah.
Yeah, there's some other very interesting, intriguing topics coming up in there really soon.
In Code Word Babylon, yeah.
Yeah.
The ones you are publishing right now deal with the literary societies, Phi Beta Kappa and all that stuff. Yeah. And Bill Clinton.
But we're going to get into it, even nastier pill to swallow very shortly after this. Well, some 10, episodes in, it gets really, really dark.
It's a real nasty book, Code Word Babylon, if you think about it.
Man, I'm telling you, and no doubt for those ones that live in Great Britain, you can see I just can't imagine myself living there. That place is very tormented. They are at war with themselves so much. It's just quite emotional to look at, actually.
Yeah, they're still at war with themselves today. They don't know if they want to exit the EU or don't want to exit the EU. Eh?
Yeah, well, they know that they're in something so deep. I think they have a clue, let's put it that way. But what can you really do about it?
Well, when you're deep in the trouble, then you rather have the choice to sink in the trouble completely or to try to get out. And I think they don't have made up their mind of what they are going to do.
Oh, boy.
Just sink and let go or try to get out.
Yeah, good point. So,
the details of this great plot, the Gunpowder Plot, are as follows. James VI of Scotland became James I of the English throne. At this time there were three great parties, namely the Puritans, the Roman Catholics, and the High Churchmen. To put it in terms that everybody understands, the Puritans, pure Protestant, the Roman Catholics, pure anti-Protestant, Council of Trent, 100% counter-reformational, and the High Churchmen who were caught in between. Who were caught in a, how do you say that in English, between a rock and a hard place.
Yep.
Each of these looked for special favor and toleration from James. But when Rome found she was not to be favored, when she found, in fact, that even toleration had been practically denied her by King James, a few of her fanatics and Jesuits began to act and plot, and thus the infamous plot called the Gunpowder Plot came into existence. In the year 1605 AD, this plot was formed by some fanatic Roman Catholics to destroy James I and his Houses of Lords and Commons. Robert Catesby originated the plot early in 1604 and revealed his secret scheme to two other Roman Catholics, John Wright and Thomas Winter. Guy Fawkes and Percy were the last to know of the plot. Fawkes was a brave soldier serving the Spanish army. His companions in the plot brought him over to England to assist them. A room adjoining the Parliament House was hired on May 24, 1604, and in December the digging commenced. John Grant and Robert Winter joined the plot now to assist in its success. The March following, the conspirators hired a cellar of the Parliament House and filled it with 36 casks of gunpowder, over which they laid faggots. In May 1605, all was ready except the firearms requisite for those in the Midlands who intended rising against the king. Several rich Roman Catholics had meantime joined the plot and gave money to the carrying out of the scheme. Before entering on the final stage of this hellish plot, the conspirators retired into an inner chamber and heard Mass and received the sacrament from Father Gerard. Sacrament meaning they took the Eucharist and swore on the quote-unquote transubstantiational piece of bread that they would do anything in their power to make this plot succeed. Francis Tresham, one of the rich conspirators, grew nervous and wrote a mysterious letter to Lord Monteagle indicating that he wished to save him from the blow-up. It contained these words, quote, "The Parliament shall receive a terrible blow and shall not see from whose hand it comes." Well, I am not sure that this Francis Tresham wrote this letter, this mysterious letter. I know that this mysterious letter was given to Lord Monteagle, but up to this day I have never ever read that a person was matched to the letter itself. So I don't know what to think about what the author writes here about Francis Tresham, because all that I know of, it is even up to this day not known who gave this letter. But important is that when you study a book like Rulers of Evil from F. Tabasorsi, you will understand that even the Gunpowder plot was just a, how do they call that? It was it was a cover.
I know what you're.
It was a blown cover for cover.
There you go.
So that means that they planned it to do it. That's all right, and they would have gone through with it, no problem. But they thought even if it is betrayed in the very last moment before its execution, it is no problem, because we can work otherwise. Instead of working with the violence of this explosion and to blow Parliament and the House of Commons and the House of Lords into oblivion and the King and all his family, we can, by making this plot public on beforehand, work more on the infiltration side. And ever since the Gunpowder plot, the Jesuits did exactly that. They worked on the infiltration instead of the blowing up of the whole stuff. And that's what was intended. If you want to understand what exactly happened in detail, first of all, go to the readings of Cold War Babylon, as I said to you already, and study also chapter 11 of the book Rulers of Evil, concerning the 13 Articles of War, Sun Tzu, and the Art of War Technique, a book that was brought out in English language in 1772 by Jesuit priest Elliot, so-called translated from Chinese into French at that time, and that these 13 Articles of War speak about the tactics the Jesuits applied every time as their own. And when you understand that, you will understand that sometimes giving up an operation and to blow up an operation before it actually goes through can be more effective than to go through with the original plans. And this is just exactly what blown cover as cover with the Gunpowder plot in 1605 meant. Any comments from you, brothers? Oh,
no.
No, good. Then I'm going to continue reading here. So, this letter that the author speaks about, of which I am not sure is really from this Francis Tresham, was laid before the council, and the king was the first to guess that gunpowder was meant. The 36 barrels of gunpowder would have sent the Parliament and its buildings to their long home, and the search was immediately instituted. On the evening before November 5th, a party sent down the cellars of the Parliament House and commenced the hunt. Soon they came to the cellar in which everything was prepared, and here they found Guy Fawkes actually preparing for the coming explosion. The conspirators fled to the country and perished in desperate fighting. The penal laws against Roman Catholics became so harsh in consequence of this plot that none were permitted to remain in London who professed to be Roman Catholics. This is a side of the story the Jesuits have untold in their histories and school books. Now James I, though nominally a Protestant, eagerly desired to see the High Church party established in Scotland as well as in England, to the overthrow and disestablishment especially of Scottish Presbyterianism. The General Assembly of Scotland resisted him and his measures, so he turned his attention to Ireland. Removing all the rebel Irish Roman Catholic chiefs from Ulster, he gave that place to settlers from England and Scotland. These settlers took with them their Protestant ministers who moulded the characters and lives of the people by openly teaching the Scriptures as the rule of faith and conduct. This is why the north of Ireland has been prosperous, progressive, and enlightened ever since. And think of the north of Ireland still today in 2019. This war between the rest of the Roman Catholic Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, going on against Northern Ireland, where, for example, Ian Paisley came in the past from.
That's right.
The criminal records of Belfast are only about half as contrasted with Dublin, Cork, and other Roman Catholic cities. 1609. Douay Roman Catholic version of the Bible published. It is called the Douay-Rheims version. Rheims, R-H-E-I-M-S. In the Douay-Rheims Bible, the scriptures have been altered to suit the idolatrous teachings of the Church of Rome. Means the Douay-Rheims Bible is a futurist Bible. The interpretation of that Bible leads to the futurist interpretation of the book of Revelation. And this Bible was published 2 years before 1611, the authorized version of the English Protestant Bible came up. In the preface to this version, the revisers clearly brand the Pope as the man of sin. Millions of Bible students have never read this preface. Yeah, that's true. And I have here a Roman Catholic, I want to say. I have here a Bible of the 1611 King James Bible where that preface is not in. But when you go online, you can find this preface to the Holy 1611 King James Bible, and there you can read it. And I also have other printing forms here where that
interesting.
is in. It's very interesting to read that. Yeah. Do you have one there at
Hold
your
on.
position, Brett?
Yeah, I do. Let me get it. I'll be right back.
Yeah, sure. Michael, any comments on the things read so far?
Not so far.
Okay. So then we're just going to wait until Brett pulls that out.
Yeah.
I have multiple versions of the King James version here, but the one that I have here on my desk is not the one with the preface.
Okay, I have a reprint from China, so it's probably not going to be in here. But we'll see.
That's possible, yeah.
Preface.
Let me just see when I go to my closet if I have one with the preface right here.
Yes, publisher's preface. I do have it.
Nice.
Yes, it's here. Yeah, so, very interesting. I'll have to read this sometime. It's, how many pages? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then there's a biographical introduction as well. Very interesting. I have not read this yet, so this is all in Old English. I'll have to sit down and read it.
Well, maybe that's an idea that you can prepare for our next reading, Brett.
Yes, very good, Jörg.
We are going to do another session tomorrow, and when you have the time to prepare this overnight, then you can maybe read this overnight and scan it into the computer, and then we can put the pictures in the video tomorrow, and we can read this wonderful preface of the 1611 King James Bible.
Yep, that's right, Jörg. Perfect.
Good. Then that's a deal.
Yes, it is. It's a done deal, and thank you very much for your contributions, Michael and Jörg, today to this broadcast. It's been really interesting, and I think we ended just at the proper note. If this is going to be the end, right, Jörg?
Well, we could go on for a few moments, but we are starting with another subject anyway, so it's appropriate to take a break here and stop the broadcast for today. And then tomorrow we will start with the preface of the 1611 King James Bible before we continue in this book. Good idea for me. So I say thank you very much for your attention of the reading and discussion we had today on the wonderful book from Albert Close, The Divine Program of the World's History. And with that, I'm going to close my part of this reading down and give the words to my German brother Michael, who will then give it to Brett to end the broadcast altogether.
Yeah, thank you, Jörg, for the reading, and thank you, Brett, for your contributions and also for the production of this and the following videos. I think there will be thousands of it.
My pleasure. I hope so. God willing.
Yeah, because I have a hard time keeping up with all the videos, producing and uploading, because there are so many interesting stuff in it. And the great thing in videos is you can push the pause or stop button and show it again and repeat it and repeat it. And so it's just a great video, great media, the YouTube videos, and you can download it and distribute it for free. It's just great. Yeah, and it's also great to learn more about the history. And but I think that I have said all which is valid here, and I cannot add something others than I'm very proud to be in your team, and I hope we can keep up for more thousands of interesting videos. And therefore, I'd like to thank you very much, all of you, and to hand over the word to Bret.
Yes, Michael, and I will agree and support your pride in Christ, because we have pride in our Savior. We have pride in what He's done for us, and we humbly submit to Him, and He is our master. And on that note, we'll catch up with you next time when we delve into the preface of the 1611 King James Bible. Hope to see you then. God bless. Bye-bye.
From whence come wars and fightings among you? Come they not hence even of your lusts that war in your members? Ye lust and have not, ye kill and desire to have and cannot obtain. Ye fight and war, yet ye have not because ye ask not. Ye ask and receive not because ye ask amiss, that ye may consume it upon your lusts. Ye adulterers and adulteresses, know ye not that the friendship of the world is enmity with God? Whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of God. Do ye think that the Scripture saith in vain, the Spirit that dwelleth in us lusteth to envy? But He giveth more grace. Wherefore He saith, God resisteth the proud, but giveth grace unto the humble. Submit yourselves therefore to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw nigh to God, and He will draw nigh to you. Cleanse your hands, ye sinners, and purify your hearts, ye double-minded. Be afflicted, and mourn, and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning, and your joy to heaviness. Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and He shall lift you up. Speak not evil one of another, brethren. He that speaketh evil of his brother, and judgeth his brother, speaketh evil of the law, and judgeth the law. But if thou judge the law, thou art not a doer of the law, but a judge. There is one lawgiver who is able to save and to destroy. Who art thou that judgest another? Go to now, ye that say today or tomorrow, we will go into such a city, and continue there a year, and buy, and sell, and get gain. Whereas ye know not what shall be on the morrow. For what is your life? It is even a vapor, that appeareth for a little time, and then vanisheth away. For that ye ought to say, if the Lord will, we shall live and do this or that. But now ye rejoice in your boastings. All such rejoicing is evil. Therefore to him that knoweth to do good, and doeth it not, to him it is sin. Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire.